Deion Sanders has had plenty of solid follow-ups. Well, when answering press conference questions from the media, post-game, win or lose. I was impressed with how he handled himself, really, over the last year. But, man, he just can't help but defend SHEDEUR. And maybe not even defend, push. He's the PR firm. He is the media relations for his son. And that's all well and good to some extent. But now we're in the social media lane where Deion, primetime, when he is bored, which I guess is not often because I don't see him going after fans like this on the regular. If you want a response from Deion Sanders from primetime, you just mentioned something about SHEDEUR and how he's not going to be a first-round pick. So not only that, SHEDEUR ends up going after a former player who just recently transferred, and they both have some cold responses to what that player had to say. But in thinking about how to just go about the professional manner of handling certain things, Chad, there's the right way, and then I feel like in some cases there's the Carl Williams way, the Caleb Williams father way. Do you get the sense that Deion's going down that path with his son about to enter the NFL a year from now?
Well, so I think this whole story, and it's really a story in two parts when you look at Deion Sanders and what's happening with this latest one. Max Olson of The Athletic put together a long-form piece where he interviewed players that were systematically removed from the program by Deion Sanders in Colorado. And, I mean, I think we even probably came on that day and said, boy, this is what's got to be done. These players, they sucked. They lost a lot of games, got to get rid of them. When you read some of the stuff in print that some of these kids were saying about how they were treated on their way out, it's unnecessary. I mean, there's a way to go about it and look someone in the eye and say, hey, thanks for playing with us through spring. It's not going to work out. We don't want to waste your time. We're going to give you every opportunity to go somewhere else and find a spot. Instead, you had stories of this one safety who left for Austin Peay and then eventually followed Austin Peay's coach, Scotty Walden, to UTEP, who said Charles Kelly wouldn't look me in the eye. And I'm angry crying because they didn't even give me a chance. And he was even making plays in spring, and they were talking down to me. And Deion was another story of a guy that was talked down to by Deion. It's unnecessary. I think there's a way to do it where people are going to understand that you've got to purge a program that hasn't won. And this is major college football. First and foremost, it is about competing and winning. But you can also treat people with respect and just not walk into every room like, hey, I'm the Hall of Famer, you're not, so you're trash, and I'm gold. So get out of here. And I'm going to bring on my son and his friends, and we're going to go win. Now, the response to that story, I think, has been way over the top by someone like a Brian Howell who covers Colorado football, because they're very much in defense mode of everything Deion and the program, and they're, I don't know why we're drudging this stuff back up, and why are we interviewing these guys? I thought it was a good piece. It's good journalism. He got people on the record, players, with their actual accounts of it. One of the strangest one was an offensive lineman who actually went to UCLA and played. That was a pretty good player and a starter. He was on a group text with the 5 starting offensive linemen, and the offensive line coach, just on the day of the purge, where 20 players were told to leave, the Sunday after the spring game, he sent a group text to all the linemen that just said, good luck, and then removed all 5 of them from the group text. And they had no idea what that meant. They weren't called into a meeting or anything. So what did they do? Well, we're not wanted. They entered the transfer portal. And then guys are trying to get back into the facility to get their own belongings. They were locked out by that night or the next day. This is not cool. Like, I've defended Deion on a lot of stuff. This is not the way to handle business. This is not cool of anyone that coaches college football to do something like this. And I don't appreciate it. I don't like it. So the response then has been those defending Deion that cover the program, that want access, are doing everything they can to defend Deion. And that gets us to this part of it, Hutton, where SHEDEUR Sanders is going after some of these former players and saying this safety was mid at best.
In response to what the safety said.
I don't even remember him. Yeah.
So here's what the safety said. Xavier Smith is the player's name.
And this is the kid who went to Austin Peay and then UTEP.
So he departed the program, and and here's the quote from that piece on The Athletic, from Smith. He didn't want me to waste a year thinking I could earn a spot. I was actually getting mad, like tears coming to my eyes, because, bro, you never even tried to get to know me. He was destroying guys' confidence and belief in themselves. The way he did it, it could have been done with a little more compassion. So that led SHEDEUR to put this on X. I don't even remember him, to be honest. Bro had to be very mid at best. That's coming from the captain and the leader, the quarterback of your program, and someone that just left to go to Austin Peay, someone that was coached by Deion Sanders, and a player at the level of Smith. I'm not knocking the guy, but he goes from Colorado in the Big 12 now to Austin Peay, and he's saying this about Deion Sanders. There have been other players who have left the program as well. Meanwhile, Deion's busy defending his son on social media.
By the way, that safety also later in that piece came back and said, I'm not going to sit here and crush Deion Sanders. I thought he did some good things. There's some things I disapproved of, like any new coach. Like, he was very mature about it in the end. He said, I'm not trying to crush the guy. Here was my experience, and I thought I liked some of the things he was trying to do, and I didn't like some of the things. I thought that was very fair. I thought this response from SHEDEUR was incredibly immature.
Yes. Well, so here's Deion earlier where he goes and discusses just he posting a random thought. This was Wednesday morning. He tweeted this, and then there was one reply that got him pretty pissed off, I think. Folks don't hate you because they really don't know you. They admire you in a negative way. They realize they can't be you, think like you, talk like you, walk in your shoes. That bothers them. Always smile when you see them because that makes them admire you so much more in that negative way. That's what Deion posted. And then there was one account, Pre-Time KB, who responded and says, tell your son stop acting like he's the coldest out here and then put up a 4-8 season. Okay, I mean,
it's great.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's speaking a language that those guys who are all about whether or not you excel in football or not should understand. Why are they talking trash after a 4-8 season?
So then Deion responds to this guy and says, he will be a top 5 pick. Where's your son going? LOL. I got time today. LOL. Like,
yeah.
it just going back and forth about, the draft stock of SHEDEUR Sanders. We are just getting started in this regard.
It's a terrible look for Deion Sanders, and on a number of fronts. The dude is bringing up your record after 1 year at Colorado. Well, whether, whatever. Everybody knows what you inherited and what you were trying to do, so you can defend that or not. And instead of defending the team and the record, or even your son's performance on that team, your response is, well, he's going to be a top 5 pick. That shows me a guy who only cares about the NFL and only cares about his son, quite frankly,
he's
in
blaming,
the NFL.
He's blaming everybody for the 4-8 except for SHEDEUR.
Yeah.
Like, guy's going to be a top 5 pick. It's not his fault.
All these losers surround my son. Right. He's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't know why you'd want to go play for that, honestly. If you just read this story and then you saw the captain and the leader of the team's response to these players that were just honestly sharing their story and didn't even try to badmouth Deion in any big way, is that, and that's the response, is that I don't even remember this dude. He was mid. You're really missing the point.
Well,
and Deion Sanders to come back and all that stupid crap about, well, you smile at them more, and then when you smile, they'll appreciate you more, and they don't talk like you, and they don't. You're not addressing the fact that you locked dudes out of the facility and they're claiming they couldn't get their personal belongings when you kicked them out of school. Like, that's nothing to me. That's filler. That is bullshit filler. That doesn't say a thing. What is this, some old Chinese proverb you're quoting? I have no idea what that means about anything that was said. Respond to what they're talking about. If you want to say, yeah, I was a little bit unreasonable with them, but I knew that this program needed a shock to the system, and I had to be direct with them, and if they didn't like that directness, well, that's just part of it. Say something about that. You come back with all this stuff. I'm really getting tired of speaking in code about everything, and then your son trashing some kid on social media, and then you coming back and defending your son.
Well, so he says things like this that I'm like, what are you doing? But the old school approach in other quotes and his mentality of how he goes about not just his career, but his coaching career, about how he doesn't have to sell or he will not sell anything to recruits because, well, he's not a salesman. I don't sell anything because I don't have anything to sell. I don't sell them dreams. I don't sell them hope. I don't sell them wishes. I tell them everything they get, they're going to have to earn. I don't promise you a number. I'm not promise you in a position. I'm not promise you to start. If you want it, come and get it. We don't sugarcoat anything. We're not going to be big. We're not going to big on baby you. We're not going to hold your hand. You have 127 years of NFL experience up under this roof. It's on you. Like, I think that's the mentality that he takes with everyone but SHEDEUR. We're not going to big on baby you. And maybe it's not directly to SHEDEUR because I do think he's forced SHEDEUR to work and improve. I'm not saying that. I'm just not sure if he goes back on social in the same manner for anybody but SHEDEUR, maybe Travis Hunter. And that's about it. Because no one's going to mention, anyone else, including the other Sanders son on social. So that's where it just gets all of the lines are kind of crossed out at that point for me. And again, we're sitting here in May discussing Deion. Wait until we get to August and September.
I mean, I think he can do a pretty compelling job of explaining how old school he is and the way he thinks and everything else.
And I do think he's legit when he says that.
Yeah, I don't think he does a good enough job really explaining himself or the motivations behind treating, college guys like that. I'm not trying to treat them like they're 14 years old or anything, but I mean, those Colorado players he inherited are not professional athletes. Like, you can be straight up with them. And all these guys are saying, like, we understood because from day one he was saying we all sucked. So we knew something was coming, but there is an amount of respect you can show someone and treat them that way. I keep going back to an interview we conducted with another Sanders son and his mindset and mentality
Deion Sanders Jr.
in defending his dad, Deion Sanders Jr., defending his dad for not knowing who Kevin Byard was when Kevin Byard was all-pro with the Titans in the secondary.
And Deion was on NFL Network.
And he was on NFL Network. And he defended him. And the basic gist of the whole thing was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hutton, from Deion Sanders Jr. was, who cares? We're rich. He's Deion Sanders. Shut up. I'm not going to explain anything because I'm better than you are. I've won more rings. I've got a gold jacket. I got more money. And I'm not going to explain the actual ins and outs of this.
But it was also...
That's the sense I got from his son.
It was also Junior saying that about himself to us.
Yes.
It wasn't just speaking on behalf of his dad. Then it got on to, like...
but you come about that naturally.
Oh, sure.
And there's a reason that he's talking like that. And there's a reason that SHEDEUR Sanders talks like this about people and does it. Davey's got a good question. He says, if a high school reality show, we got to get back on that too, hurt Spencer Rattler's stock, how are teams actually going to respond to everything SHEDEUR Sanders in the NFL draft?
Not nearly as harsh because SHEDEUR Sanders is going to be a higher pick and graded higher than Spencer Rattler. And if
I would look into it if I were a team.
They will.
He's not shown me yet that he's the leader that I would want. I think he's pretty talented. I don't think he's Caleb Williams talented.
No, but
from what I've seen,
neither's Bo Nix, and he's a first.
Well,
round
but
pick.
I'm saying he's also right now a top 5 pick in most mock drafts, right? So
well,
I'm putting him in that very high pick range.
The mock drafts I've seen, he's in the 20s.
Okay.
And
I saw one where he was 5th.
Deion's mock, he's a top 5 pick. So that's all I've seen. Now, Carson Beck is the highest rated player currently. But I've only seen 2 quarterbacks mocked in the first right now, with Quinn Ewers being like the bottom of the first currently. There's not the quarterback group this year compared to next year is not.
Well, okay,
it is better.
If he's in the 20s or early second round, then I think he is going to get knocked for some of this public behavior.
Well, maybe that's what that's the reason why they'll claim that he fell. Who knows if that's really what had Spencer Rattler falling down?
I have a hard time buying that's the reason ultimately, but
the reason is he needs development.
Yeah, I don't love what I've seen out of SHEDEUR Sanders so far. I don't. Now, he's got a season to change my mind. And Colorado's about to have a season where if you thought Dan Lanning was motivated to kick his ass and talk about how we're not about clicks,
yeah.
we're about substance here. Line on up, starting with North Dakota State, an FCS power that they're going to play early in the year. Nebraska wanting revenge. There's a lot of teams that read stories like this and listen to Deion Sanders talk that want a crack at the Buffaloes this year. I don't know how much all that, off-season motivation really matters when the ball is snapped and hats are banged during the game, but there's some coaches out there that are motivated to put it to them.
Oh, no doubt. And I also will say I think it is extremely difficult for the greatest players of certain eras to then jump into coaching and not have the same mentality reciprocated towards the way you approach the game. An example is what Deion's saying in this next quote. I was a straight dog. Now I'm the coach. I know what the whole room is thinking. It's a tremendous advantage, and I absolutely love it. And he's discussing what separates him. What separates me from everyone else, I feel good right now. What separates me from everyone else is I've sat in 3 seats. And he goes, I gave you the dramatic pause so you can follow me. I'm the parent, right? Couple kids in college football. I've been a kid. I was a straight dog, and now I'm the coach. But that's prime time level. And we're in an era where not every player is coming in to devote 100% to said university. They can't wait to jump in the portal and test the waters and see what's out there. And Deion is saying that he's not going to promise anything.
I might want to play for that if I'm a player coming out of high school, if his son's not his quarterback. I would not like the current setup with the level of daddy ball that's being played. And
Right.
Shedeur's a good player. I'm not saying that there's a quarterback on that roster that should play over him. I'm simply saying when you're on a team and you feel like the quarterback leader, who is the coach's son, is also sort of a narc for his dad, and they're all in on it together, I don't like that setup for leadership on a team. And that's the way it feels to me.
He's got his kids buying him a $7 million home, but he wouldn't accept it, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, look,
you know what I mean? That's the lifestyle.
His kids go out of their way to defend their dad when I don't really think it's something they should have been defending for him. Deion Sanders can speak to that if he wants to, instead of reading us Sun Tzu or whatever he did with his latest lines that he was giving us. I mean, he can speak openly about it if he wants. It's not the kids' spot to defend their dad.
Oh, you're talking about with...
yeah, I think that they brought something up. I wanted to get into this today because...
This is all Deion saying this.
Yes, this was a story that when I'm talking about SHEDEUR, when he attacks the guy...
Going after the player.
The guy didn't really talk bad about SHEDEUR. He's talking about the program and Deion and how he's treated. When he goes after him, he is
saying you could have worked with me.
watchdogging his dad.
Yeah, worked with me, and then SHEDEUR says, I don't even remember this guy.
Right. So when he does that, I don't think it's their spot to do that.
That comment to me affects him more at the next level. Don't even know someone on your team as the quarterback.
And just why? I mean, you're a star quarterback.
Right.
Your dad is Deion Sanders. You're going to be a first-round pick, likely.
And even if you like it, you're punching down. In the NFL draft. Even if it's all even, you're punching down.
I mean, you're not punching down. You're kicking someone whose throat is on the ground. He got ran out of school when he signed a scholarship to Colorado. He had to go to Austin Peay, and now he's at UTEP. Like, why? I mean, the guy's
played a year.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a heart, you read the kid's story and you're affected by it, and you think, yeah, that sucks. I'd hate to be 19 years old and thinking I'm going to go across the country to play for this school, and then have this happen after you felt like you had a pretty good spring, and that you were holding your own and you're making plays in the spring game and doing this and that, and then a coach doesn't have the respect to look you in the eye and tell you to leave?
Based on Smith's claim, doesn't have the ability to even coach you.
He didn't meet. Deion Sanders wouldn't even meet with him. He met with other players, but wouldn't meet with him. And then for this kid to go after him, I just don't like it. It's just not. It's not how you treat people. There's a way to do things and a way not to. And this is a cutthroat, tough business. We all understand that. I'm not here to play patty cakes or hold hands or get around a campfire and eat s'mores together and everybody to get a trophy and all that. I'm not for that. I am for human decency and respect. And yes. Deion and his staff can show a little bit more of that. And Charles Kelly, by the way, the guy who wouldn't look this safety in the eye when he was kicking him out of school and cutting him from the team, left to go to Auburn, and now he's at Auburn this year. He was there for 1 year.
I think it was more than left. I think he was told to leave because didn't they remove play calling duties from him in the middle of the year? But Deion didn't say anything about it. He had more respect for that when he didn't say anything.
I think there was a mix of both. I think if he was asked to leave, I think Auburn's a hell of an upgrade from Colorado for a program. So I don't know that he was fired.
He won't
as
be
much
calling
as,
plays though.
Yeah, he's co-defensive coordinator there, and that's a spot he should be in. Most of the time when he's had success, he's been a non-play calling defensive coordinator. Recruiter is where Charles Kelly's had a ton of success.
Well, recruiting's not something that's paramount at Colorado currently.
Yeah. Point being,
yeah.
I can't. It's hard to get a sense of, does Deion really know what's best for his staff, and he's making matter-of-fact moves to improve his staff, or did he hire a really good staff and guys are leaving because they don't mesh well with Deion and they don't like the structure of the program? I don't know.
Is Mike Zimmer still there?
Year 2 will tell us a lot more.
Defensive coordinator is Robert Livingston. So I'm not sure if he's Pat Shurmur is still there. Pat Shurmur is his offensive coordinator. We know Warren Sapp is on this staff as a graduate assistant.
Yeah, Warren Sapp's going to bring a lot of logic to that staff, I'm sure, too.
You
thought Deion Sanders liked to talk in old Chinese proverbs. Wait until Warren Sapp starts talking. There's going to be no substance with him. It's just going to be straight fire, and here's what I did as a player, and here's why I'm a badass, and if you can do a tenth of what I'm doing right now, then you're going to be decent.
Their assistant coach and the defensive tackles coach, someone that's going to really change the program, Sal Sunseri.
Oh, yeah.
Is on the staff there.
Sal Sunseri's at his best when his son is playing for him, much like Deion, and his son's good. That's his value.
There's value apparently coming to bowl games, where maybe we don't see as many opt-outs. Ross Dellinger with this tweet. Bowl season director Nick Carparelli, he told Yahoo Sports in Phoenix that he expects NIL to soon come in-house and for athletes to sign binding compensation contracts with those schools that will require them to play in bowls and college football playoff games, eliminating or greatly reducing opt-outs. That from the bowl season director, saying that NIL is going to soon come in-house, meaning through the university. And I guess what would happen is you have the wing of the athletic department that more or less is the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's just under one roof, so they funnel the money through the university like they used to. Percentages that we don't even know through sponsorships for the player. How does the player know that the value that he's receiving is actually the best percentage for said player whenever there's a billboard still up in a stadium somewhere from the same sponsor? Don't know what how the money matches up. The universities want to keep it that way, and in this case, signing contracts. So, just looking at the meeting, with Charlie Baker, and just said on a national level, it needs to happen for everybody's collectives to be brought in house and universities to manage that. We've got this up. We'll see if we can put it up here. There we go. I think that would come with what we see with agreements, much like other employment agreement between athletes and the university now compensating them.
I love this.
Well, yes. But, I mean, who is looking out for the player in whatever agreement they're going to sign?
Well, they all have agents now. A lot of them do.
I mean, that
are signing.
But not the ones who may transfer and then actually be a one flash, okay, I'm a junior now, I'm going to enter the NFL draft. You have those big jumps, those big leaps, and all of a sudden you could be a combine invite. You're like, okay, I'm going to go focus on preparing for the draft. That's what a lot of them do. And my guess is the 300-plus players that are at the NFL Combine all don't have agents whenever they choose to opt out. They just get feedback whenever they put their name in the hat to see where they would be drafted. And that's whenever you're going through the agent process. By and large, I don't think the majority of players in bowl season have a single agent that they're funneling things through at that point.
It would be wise to get a very standard small contract that if these NIL agreements go in-house in any ways, that's something that it could be 2 paragraphs. You don't need to make it convoluted, don't need to make it very difficult, complicated for those that sign it, but that's simply as agreeing to this NIL payment that you're going to receive, if the NIL agreement is in-house, you agree that if healthy, you will play the entire season, whether that be a bowl game or a college football playoff. That's not too much to ask out of someone. You're going to pay them. They're a pro now, especially if it's in-house. So they need to do that. I don't care if it affects how much they're going to make at the next level. If you want it to be a business, it's going to be a business. And that if we're going to pay you, you're going to play and do this. Now, do I think that smart coaches and programs will be wise enough to know this dude shot up from a 5th-round pick to a 1st-round pick, and we're playing in the Bahamas Bowl? He doesn't need to play. He's got a tender hamstring. He's out. He can go get ready with his agent for the draft. Yeah. Smart coaches would do that for their guys and their players. I don't think it's a universal thing that has to be enacted. But I do think what it avoids is guys who are, 4th, 5th, 6th-round picks or undrafted that decide, I just don't want to play. I want to go ahead and get ready for the draft. And we've seen a few of them that they may be undrafted or late in the round, right? Just because they don't want to keep doing it. Well, if you're going to make a lot of money in college as a good college player, then if you sign that NIL agreement in-house, I'm totally fine with a part of the agreement being playing in a bowl or a college football playoff.
Yeah, but I just don't know. I mean, whenever I was a university employee, when I worked at the campus recreation center, I didn't have a contract. I was an at-will employee. I got paid direct. There's no binding anything. Nothing that said I had to wear a Middle Tennessee logoed shirt. You know what I mean? And I had to show up on certain days. Or that I couldn't drop and just quit right before a shift. There's nothing like that. And if you're a university employee, I don't know the contractual. To me, this is more or less the university trying to promise sponsors that certain players are going to play postseason with national audiences.
Yeah.
But if it's Missouri against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl and it's not a college football playoff game, to me, that what we have been conditioned to believe now is that the games that matter are the college football playoff matchups, and that's it.
Well, and they want to get back to where that's not the case. They want to get back to other games mattering.
But I don't know
more
how
than it did for Ohio State this past year.
But I don't know how that is improved by going to 14 or 16 team playoff. You're broadening the playoff importance, but not the Liberty Bowl or the Gator Bowl.
I think if Marvin Harrison Jr. and everyone else in Ohio State's team plays in that game against Missouri, I got more interest in it, in watching it all the way through. And let's say that would be a game that was a playoff game.
Yes.
With those teams.
Yes.
Now it's twofold too. There will be guys who step out of the playoff, especially if they're the 13 or 14 seed. Okay, so you want to prevent that and make sure your college football playoff is as prominent as you want it to be with networks, with college football fans, with everyone. But if there's the top-level bowl games right after that, and I'm not talking about, like I said, the Cure Bowl or whatever it may be, right? I'm talking about the top level that are left out there. You do want to be able to give a sponsor some guarantees. Well, and I'm going to go back to this, too. Everything we do, I feel like we get way too much in with what's it mean for the players? What does it do for the players? All about the players. I'm not trying to poo-poo what the players need or what their rights are or any of that. I want to say I'm all for them making money off name, image, likeness. That's what's right and what's fair. But we have to start asking what is right for the fan. And I will speak as a lifelong college football fan and a graduate of the University of Tennessee and a fan of that school. I care more when the best players for my school play in a mid-level bowl game than I would if they don't playing in that bowl game. And I think every college football fan would say the same. It's better to get the better players that
right,
playing in every game. And if there's a way to guarantee that, I'm all for it. Now, my caveat to that is coaches and programs have to be smart in how they manage this because they want future great players that'll be in the NFL to come play for them. So I don't think it's good business to hold a gun to some kid's head that played his ass off for you and became a first-round pick over the course of the season and make sure that they have to go play the Music City Bowl. But I think you can massage that into, hey, there's some fatigue there, there's this and that. They're going to be on the sideline, but they're not going to play.
They want the quarterbacks playing.
Yeah.
They want the star wide receiver playing. They want the pass rusher playing. But, again, there's always money tied in behind the scenes as to why Nick Carparelli wants to have – he's director of the bowl season, why he wants contracts to the university. What really should happen is the sponsors of these bowls should step up and have to come up with some plan to get them to play. Because right now, the payout per school at the Music City Bowl is $5.7 million. And my guess is the player that's going to be paid to play in that game is not going to come close to a percentage that's acceptable, given the fact that if the guy wants to make sure that he stays healthy, or if he's playing on a bum leg to begin with, that he's able to ensure himself something better than whatever the payout's going to be per player through the university.
Well, I don't know.
Who's going to save as much money as possible.
These businesses could be tapped out. I mean, they could be asking for so much money for sponsorship. We've seen sponsorships change and bowls lose sponsorship.
But I think that's why the bowl season director wants to have this, because he'll get more sponsorship dollars because the players are in the game.
Well, and I think that he'll get any dollars. I mean, I don't know that it's more as much as just continue to get what they've been getting.
Well, Transper for Music City Bowl is a $10 million total payout, $5 million per school. I mean, to me, that's good. It's the same as the Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Barstool Bowl is $350,000.
And they want to keep that. My point is, I don't know as much about, like, we want more money. It's let's keep making money with bowl games.
Right.
And to do that, we need to tie in something.
We need to make sure that the players are going to play before they unionize.
We got to make sure it's not a JV scrimmage with 9 guys opting out that are the 9 best players on a team, and then the other team has their full allotment of players, and it's not fun for anybody.
Right.
Or all the good players in a game opt out and decide not to play. That's and I get it, and I'm going to keep coming back to this, and I'm going to hammer on this until it gets old. But I want to do this because I think that what's lost in all of this is not what's good for the players. It's what's good for the fan. And we keep asking, who's going to be the voice of the players? Who's going to be the voice of the player? I don't hear enough people being the voice of the fan. I think the NBA has gone downhill because the players have too much freedom and too much leeway. And the CBA is too good and slanted in their favor. And because of that, the players don't care as much about the fan. The NFL works at the highest level of all of our interest, in large part because it's the worst CBA for the players. The owners have it best. And the owners think about 2 things only: their own money and how much they can make and how they can make more, and their fan interest. Because they know if the fans are there, then the money is going to be there for them, and people watching and people going to games and all of that. And that benefits us as fans. I don't want the players to get screwed over in all of this. I'm not saying that, but the more we talk about what the players want, deserve, need, whatever, however you want to phrase it, I think the further we get away from what's best for the fan.
Well,
I'll tell you, watching some of these bowl games where everyone opts out is not fun for any fan.
Well, the fan speaks for the fan. Ratings have never been higher in college football last year than what we saw with NIL and the players getting more than what they were getting. I'm not saying the players need to hold out and do all this, but, I mean, when the Holiday Bowl is paying out per school $6.5 million and you want your star players for whoever's in this game, it was ACC against Pac-12. I don't know who it is now. You want San Diego County Credit Union to stick with the bowl game sponsorship.
Well, I don't think
that's not the player's fault.
When you say that ratings were up everywhere, I don't know that that's true for games where there were a ton of opt-outs in mid-level bowl games.
But that's why they want the players to play. If you want the players to play, then pay them.
Yeah,
but pay them more than whatever they're going to have to sign with a contract that ensures that they play. And the contract, to me, sounds like it's the university agreement, and it's for the season, including bowl games.
Yeah.
It's not just the sponsor of the bowl games coming in to tack on extra cash. It's just your allotment for whatever is going on there. And, I mean, the Pinstripe Bowl's paying $4.4 million to each university. My guess is the home game against Western Kentucky, if you're Auburn, isn't paying that same amount. You're actually paying Western that amount to get them to come play. But yet you're making up for that by making some bowl game where you're allocated there and you want to keep your big portion of it. It does go back to, it is very much like an NFL ownership deal.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to that's what's best for me as a fan. I'd rather see, call me crazy, I'd rather see good players play in every game they're healthy enough to play in and not have a ton of opt-outs. I think most college football fans would like to see that also.
Well, I do. I'm looking at it from what's good for the fan. I'm still going to be watching college football. I'm still going to be watching the NFL no matter how much the owners screw us over. But, Chad, the it's to me that there needs to be some representation on the player side of this, because all they're doing, they're not the universities aren't looking out for the fan. The college football is not looking out for the fan. They're trying to cap whatever they have been paying to the player just to get it over with and set a precedent and lock it in with a contract that I don't know who oversees this. The guidance counselor, your class counselor.
I think what college sports has above all else, and it's the ultimate advantage they have in a lot of ways against pro sports. And I'm not saying pro sports aren't passionate and there's not passionate fan base and all that, but there is a different feeling about your college or your team
You're
or
not
your
leaving.
state.
Yeah.
There's a different feeling. I'll get to that. I think people will leave. And I don't mean leave for good. Here's what I mean by that. And I'm experiencing this season after season. It is so tied to an emotion and to an institutional memory of players that have been associated with certain schools. If we continue into this cycle of one and done and guys playing for 3 or 4 colleges throughout their time and not caring about rosters until it's opening day and not caring about what year someone is because it doesn't matter, and forgetting 3 years from now who played on the team then because they played on a team since then and, they were pretty good for 1 year, but I don't really remember that. I do think that over time, and I'm not talking about 5 months, hell, maybe not even 3 or 5 years, but over time, people that grew up with college sports will have a different feeling about it. And I don't want that feeling to ever leave. Am I going to stop watching college football or college basketball this year? Hell no. I still enjoy the hell out of it. And I like watching it, and I'm going to watch my team, and I'm going to watch the sport because it's very high level, and I enjoy watching the games. But if you get further removed from what makes it unique and special, it's not overall a good thing. And I just want to caution against that, and I'll continue to do that at all times.
Well, but your players for university aren't opting out in the big games during the season. They're not sitting out Tennessee, Florida week or Tennessee, Bama week. They may sit out the Pop-Tart Bowl, but the Pop-Tart Bowl still pulled 4.3 million viewers on average for that game, where the biggest storyline was the mascot going down a slide. Music City Bowl, 5.6 million for a matchup that no one cared about, right? Like, the eyeballs are still there. Maybe it's for a bad version of football.
Well, and again, I'm not talking, like I said, not right now, not right this moment, 10 years from now. As generations go through this, there is a law of diminishing returns that happens. And I'm seeing it now with some of my buddies who have been around schools for a long time that just simply care less. They don't care. They're not as tied into it as they were before. And I think that, television ratings, good this past year, doesn't mean they're always going to be good. I'm giving you my personal feeling about it because college sports are so much about emotion and feeling. And that's the way I feel about it. I don't want it to change too dramatically.
Well, I think the ratings will be better, though, whenever they split, when we see the Super Power Conference. That's where the ratings will go.
I hope so. I liked it the way it was. I don't see a need for a huge change in the quality of it or the teams or anything else, but change is going to happen whether I want it to or not. That's the reality of life, and that's the reality of business and where it's headed.
This bowl director, he doesn't want anything to change except for the sponsors to not change year after year of these bowl matchups.
Yeah, they want that money.